Hey everybody, I'm not usually one to make YouTube videos, but I have been looking online and I cannot seem to find one that shows how to install a new Corvette central exhaust system into a C3, so I'm going to go ahead and try and make one to help out people in the future. Here's the situation. We have my base model 1974 Corvette. It's an L48. I have it up on stands that I made 2 years ago actually to replace the exhaust, and it's taken me this long to get around to it. These are just wood 2x12 walls with supported ramps, and it holds the whole car up high enough that you can get underneath and work on it. There's the existing exhaust right now. I'm gonna miss it, mainly because it had these really nice chromed tips on it that I'm gonna have to get rid of, but as you can see on this side, it's a little wonky because here at the front end of the muffler, see if I can get it to, yeah, see, it's just come completely detached. I'll go ahead and turn it on to give you guys a sound. See what you can see what it hears like. You can hear what it sounds like. This exhaust is completely rusted. It has been on here for at least 13 years, because that's how long I've owned the car. It appears to not be stock, at least I can't seem to find those connectors anywhere. So I'm guessing that those were something that were put on just for this exhaust system. And that's what the car looks like now. Let's go ahead and start it up so you can hear it. Yeah, so it's got a nice throaty sound, but the sound is from it not having one of its mufflers. Anyway, so what we're going to replace it with, I only have part of it out here now, but there's the Corvette central exhaust. Just got it in the mail. 2 brand new MagnaFlow mufflers. And we'll see how the process goes. I've never done this one before. Here is the full kit laid out. I've got the mufflers I already showed you. A couple intermediate pipes. Couple front exhaust pipes in the back. Back here you have various things that came with the kit. I ordered a new set of muffler hangers for it because mine are welded to the current exhaust. Looks like this, yeah, those are the connectors to the exhaust manifold, and some clamps, another set of clamps, and a third set of clamps. I will not be welding this system together because I do not know how to weld, so I'm going to use the clamps provided and assemble it. Came with invoice, there we go, that shows all the parts it came with. And one thing it did not come with is any sort of diagram, or which side goes where and what goes with what. I know that's the order they go in, I just don't know what's right and left, so I'll just have to figure that out as I look under the car. Shouldn't be too difficult. First order of business is try and get the old one off, so let's see what happens. Well, I suppose this is good any time to pause. So, fate smiled on me. All 3 of these studs were threaded just fine. They weren't too rusted and the nuts came right off. This is the driver's side. Alright, if we go over to the passenger side, it's a different matter. One of them has come off, the other 2 aren't really budging. The one that did come off was squealing quite a bit as it came off, but the stud looks just fine. And these other 2, I managed to find a 9/16 socket that was a 6-sided socket instead of a 12. And I'm hoping that's going to give me a little more torque without being so much that I break them off. Just to show you what I'm using. I've got socket wrench. This is the, I don't know, there's 3 sizes of socket wrenches coming. This is the big one. And then that's connected to an extension, which is connected to a step down to the normal socket wrench size. Into that I got a deep leg 9/16. It needs to be a deep leg because those studs stick down too far for a normal socket. Oh, just got dripped on. Alright, that's where we're at now. We'll see if those other ones come out. Alright, on my particular exhaust system I found a couple items of interest. There's an attachment point here. I'm most of the way down the car. I'm actually right near the rear wheels. So there's one of these on either side, couple bushings. This one has been missing for who knows how long, but you can see where it used to be, right there. And then, if we go further down here, this is a bit of a complication. On the back of the transmission, we have this bracket here, which attaches through two bolts, the heads of which are back up in here, which are almost impossible to get to. And on mine, it is welded to both pipes, right there. See, there's the bracket, there's the pipe. So I've got the two bolts at least loose. I don't have them out yet. I may have to cut the pipes here and right here, and then try and pull this whole bracket assembly out, because I can't break this weld. I don't know how I would. So this can take a little while. Anyway, that's where I'm at. So here we have the exhaust removed from the car, and I'm going to go ahead and just take this video from up here to point at everything. So right there you can see that's the muffler that had already rusted itself out and had become separate from the rest of the system. These are the original exhaust hanger brackets. You can see they're both welded onto the system. That one was fraying really bad anyway, so I went ahead and just took those off and got new ones. And then as we go down, you can see those are the connect points that aren't on the new system, that appeared to connect directly to a cross member on the frame. I'm still not sure if that's stock or not. And then we get up here, you can see that I took a Sawzall and I cut it right there. This is the cross member with the holes in it that the exhaust fits through. So I cut it behind on this one in order to get this whole chunk out, and then I was able to pull this piece out as well. And then you can see right there, that is where the bracket on the back of the transmission was actually welded to the exhaust. This one actually broke off real easily just by twisting the pipe around a tiny bit. This one right here, I went ahead and cut behind the cross member and then cut in front of it so that I get the front and the rear pipe out. And then this little piece right here was welded pretty solid, and it took some time with an angle grinder, and it was mainly just a little angle grinder that I used, a little pneumatic one. And then eventually I was able to get it loose enough, and then I got in there with some screwdrivers and kind of pried through the cross member in order to wedge it in between the bracket and the pipe. I was able to hammer that, and then eventually loosened up enough that I was able to twist the pipe off and get it out of there. So the bracket's still in the car, and I think it's still in good shape. The only problem I foresee is that bracket is made for 2-inch pipe, and the new exhaust is 2.5, which I didn't think about beforehand. So we'll see how that goes when I install the new one. So anyway, there it is. I'm about to take it to the dump. One more interesting item of note, these aftermarket tips of unknown age that were on the car, if you look inside, they had some sort of a resonator or something in there that I think is really probably what contributed to the car sounding pretty neat when I got it. So I have no idea how much that affected the sound, but that's what these were. Well, the system is now fully installed, so I thought I'd go ahead and give you a rundown of what the new installation took. I wasn't able to take any video while I was installing it because I was busy installing it. So, there we have our new tailpipes, and I'm just going to take you from the rear of the car, and I'll take you through the whole thing. So, the kit came with 3 different sets of clamps. One of the 3 was obviously smaller, and it looked like it was a different material, and those are the ones that you put onto the muffler itself. So there's the new mounting point that I installed. That's really simple, it's just a bolt. This one I got kind of spot on. You can see it doesn't really look torqued back or forth, it's really centered. If we go over to the other side, this is the passenger side, you can see it looks a little bit different. See how this one's kind of torqued back, and it's under some tension. I haven't figured out how to fix that yet, but I'd say that the 2 tailpipes, the tips here, are within about 1 inch of each other, maybe 1/2 inch of how far they stick out. So for the time being it works until I figure out how to fix this. So we'll continue back here. There's a second set of clamps. I was able to install these upside down. I was able to get a socket wrenched up in there. And then we can look down the whole car and you can kind of see the whole system back there. So we'll keep going down farther. One interesting item of note was that, wow, let's see, there we go. These two fit very, very close to each other, at least the way I have mine installed. I actually had to work them around a little bit to make sure that, can I get this to readjust? There we go. To make sure they didn't touch each other, but you can see there's not much room there. Oh, coming down farther. Alright, I think I'm going to have to turn on a light for this one. Hey, there we go. Alright, so there's the back of the transmission. I did buy a new bracket. This is the new bracket that I got. I found it on eBay. It wasn't too expensive. And that allowed me to mount the second set of clamps. So at this point, the rear exhaust pipe meets the front exhaust pipe, and this clamp holds them together. And then that same clamp also clamps onto that bracket to hold it in place and keep it from rubbing on the bottom of the cross member. I was not able to get a wrench up in here to turn these upside down, so these I just have on, point side down, but with the lowness of the exhaust, I think these ends are still taller. I might cut them off at some point, I don't know. So, just to explain, I have a separate thread on Corvette forum on this, but in order to get this new bracket in and the old bracket out, what I had to do is I had to put a transmission jack under the transmission here and raise the whole thing up. In order to do that, I had to take out those two bolts, which attach to the transmission mount, which is a piece of rubber that you can see back in here that has a metal reinforcement. So when I got those two out, I was able to lift up the transmission enough that I was able to, gosh, how did this work? I was able to get to, oh, there we go. See there, you can see the transmission, and there's the drive shaft, and there's the transmission mount right there. So I was able to get to two bolts that are back up in there, and I was able to pull out this transmission mount. And when the transmission mount was out, I was able to get, see, because the transmission mount is what keeps these bolts that hold in the bracket from coming out. So I was able to get these two bolts out, and I was able to pull the old bracket and get the new one in. Just so you know, when I did that, the transmission will leak a little bit of fluid out of those two bolt holes. Don't know why, don't know enough about the transmission, but it did leak a little bit until I was able to get the new bracket in there, get everything tightened back down. So that's the only trouble I ran into in the middle of the car, installing everything. Then we'll go back up the rest of the way. There we go. There's the driver's side. It's pretty straightforward. Let's see if I can get to refocus. It's pretty straightforward up there. You just had the new attachment points into the manifold, and there's a piece of, I don't even know what it is. It seems like a soft metal or a lead or something that you go ahead and insert in between the exhaust pipe and the manifold connection. Those took a little while to figure out which end was up to make sure I inserted them correctly in, but once I figured it out, it was pretty easy. And then over here on the passenger side, same thing, but up here you have, wish I could remember the name of that right now. Anyway, there's a flapper valve in here that stays closed until the car is warmed up. So when I pulled this off, mine, the flapper, the piece of metal, had been in the heat for so long that it was all contorted and twisted up. I was actually restricting this side of the exhaust even when it was fully open, because it was taking up like 30% of the room in there, because it didn't have the ability to hinge anymore. It was just kind of this twisted chunk of metal. I didn't know that he could do that, but this is the passenger side, right? So the driver's side is the one that had the muffler coming off. So my passenger side was semi-restricted because of what was going on up here at the manifold. And then my driver's side was breathing much more easily than it would normally because of the missing muffler on it. So I don't know. The car runs a lot better now, I'll tell you that much. Let's see. The only other thing I wanted to say about installation was that this is a solid connection. This connects a certain way. There's no, not that much variance to it. So these, everywhere there's one of these pipes can slide in and out of each other, I'd say about half an inch, quarter inch, so they have some give back and forth. And then because these pipes, these long intermediate pipes here, are really only connected at this point, and the other clamp down at that end, these pipes have the ability to twist. So the hardest thing for me when installing this was that this pipe right here would want to twist down and out of the way, and I had to try and keep it pushed up while I tried to tighten these things down. But I couldn't tighten both down at once, so I'd have to tighten one down enough that it put tension on it, then try and twist the pipe, and then try and get that one to connect up the way I wanted it to. And as soon as I'd do that, I'd realize that the muffler wasn't in the right place. So there's a lot of back and forth you have to do trying to just wiggle these things into the right place. And the end result of it is that, I think they're pretty much set how they should be. But down at this end, like I started out the video, I have the issue with that hanger bracket. And the fact that it is not at rest. It's kind of under constant tension, which I'm sure is going to cause a problem. The only place I can think of to adjust it would be back there at the cross member. I think I might be able to loosen it a little bit there and push it back some. I haven't tried that yet because I've been enjoying the fact that the engine runs so much better now and sounds nice. But that's all the stuff that happened when I was installing it. It was pretty straightforward once I figured out where the pieces go. So just for future reference for everyone installing this kit, where is it? Okay, so the driver's side comes straight back from the cross member and then makes a single kick. The passenger side has that little extra, see that little extra kick right there? That's how you know the passenger from the driver's side on those. Anyway, so that's it. It's all installed. And here is the final sound after the MagnaFlow exhaust is installed.